This episode is brought to you by ABL Life Coaching, transition coaching that focuses on your needs while you get through changes in your life. Visit ablifecoaching.com to schedule your free first session. Welcome to the Needy and Normal podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Levering, mom, wife, and life coach. After hours of coaching and learning from my own life, one thing is clear. Meeting your needs is essential for a better life. Here, we'll talk about your needs and not only learn to accept them, but also tend to them without guilt. Let's get needy. So, what comes to mind when you hear me say, prioritize your needs? Well, let's put it in a question. How do you prioritize your needs? I'm going to confess to you that I had this wrong. And I'm going to share a story with you as to how I figured out how, at least for me, how to do it right. Thank you for being here. If you're brand new, I really appreciate you showing up. Stick around. Would love for you to go back and listen to previous episodes. No need to listen to any of the episodes in order, but I have heard that sometimes it feels like there's a flow, so feel free to start from the beginning. If you're back, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. Make sure before you leave today that you stop and subscribe and leave me a rating and a review. It would mean the absolute world to me as I'm still building my audience here on episode 27. So let's talk about this prioritization stuff. For me, it was a long journey in learning things the hard way, which if you're anything like me, you are already well versed in learning things the hard way. But part of the reason why you're here is to maybe not have to do everything the hard way, learn something differently, relate to something, connect to someone. And you don't know what you don't know. It's funny now, but it makes so much sense. My son was complaining to me that I get frustrated with him when he doesn't know something or understand something. And while I probably was expressing way more frustration than I needed to, he got the wrong idea. I wasn't mad that he didn't have something figured out, but he said something to me that was so obvious. I should have come up with it myself, but you don't know what you don't know. It's so true, especially with a child, but with anyone, you don't know what you don't know. So if you're trying to wrap your head around something that you just don't know or haven't fully learned to the extent that you need to learn about this thing, then it's not your fault. And there's no reason to feel bad or guilty or, to be honest, to call it wrong. Like what I'm doing, I can't even say it was a mistake, right? It's a lesson I ended up learning, which is life, right? Life is about living and learning and growing, and that's what we're doing here. So when I'm talking about prioritizing myself, yes, I'm talking about self-care. Yes, I'm talking about doing something for myself first, or taking care of whatever it is that I need to take care of ahead of something else. Yes, if you think of what a priority is, it's something that is the leader in the to-dos and the need to-dos and the things that you need to tend to, the things that matter the most. So, when I'm coaching, I tell people, let's figure out your priorities. What are the top 3 things that matter the most to you? Or if it's a to-do list, it's what are the top 3 things you have to get done? So you can look at priorities in a very matter-of-fact way. Like, I really need to change my sheets. For real, I really actually do. And that's a priority, right? That's where I sleep. That's where I get rest. That's where I need a clean place to put my body every night, right? So you can put that at the top of your priority list. So you can do it in the ways of a to-do list. You can also do it in the ways of your mental health and your physical health. I like to get in the gym in the morning to take care of myself. That is a priority. Yes, that's self-care. It's a priority. You can think of it, like I said, in the way of mental health care, where you want to make sure you have a moment of silence or meditation, or maybe you just really need to organize the kitchen so your brain feels organized. That can be a priority, because when it's a priority, it means it's important to the functionality of your life, and the people in it, but also a priority that's important to you to make you feel good and make you feel better and on track and like you're taking care of yourself. And a priority can also be a decision you need to make, a life choice of some kind. If it really needs your attention in order for you to move forward and do the things you need to do in life, that is very much a priority. If it's defined in a way of something you need, then it's allowed to be important. So really, and I've talked about this in many different ways, a priority is what you choose is a priority. One person's priorities, even if it's a list of 10, is not going to be the same as yours necessarily. Could be similar, I understand that, or have the same approach to being a priority. But, just like no two people are alike, often no two priorities are alike. Okay, so I swear I'm getting to the story. It's a little deep, okay? So just roll with me here. I need to sit down. Hold on, I'm getting my chair. Here I come. Oh, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Okay. Real-time disaster avoided. Okay, I'm good. Right now, as I'm sitting here, my husband has entered into football season whilst he's still in baseball season now. It is a transition period for me, for all of us, really. The kids just got back to school. Jeff is trying to do 2 sports at once. It's a lot for everybody. But I'm going to use the first person approach on this one. And just like I coach, I take the same approach with my own life when I'm going through a change, which can be stressful, can be overwhelming, can be a chance to re-navigate stuff. It is also a prime time to prioritize my needs, obviously the needs of the family, and just see what's most important, because if I try and do all the things, it's just too much, especially during a transition. And this is something I talk about in my coaching too. It's prioritizing is like the number one way to keep yourself on track and not overwhelmed. So I never tell someone, hey, like, let's put 10 priorities on your list, because then they all feel important and then they all feel like pressure to make sure it's all done. And when you're going through changes, that's just too much for your system, your nervous system, your mental health, and your physical well-being. It's just too much. And when you're going through something especially challenging, the best thing to do is to tend to your needs and prioritize them. So I did learn this the hard way. Like I said, I used to operate around my husband. This is why I brought him up, because his job is super important. He is the main financial earner in the family. I admit that. And his schedule is so highly demanding that we really do end up kind of going about our lives around his schedule. And it happened a whole lot more when the kids were not in school yet, meaning like babies and toddlers, when we didn't even do daycare yet. There were no grade levels. It was just, stay-at-home mom with the kids. And granted, these are things I've talked about before, but as far as prioritizing myself, this is kind of, let's pick up where I started my business and I'll take you forward. We would revolve around him. And he didn't ask for that. He didn't need it to be that way. But I felt like that was how it needed to be. I had talked to players and coaches' wives and other broadcasters' wives, and especially the ones who were moms. And I just thought, you show up at their games and you make sure you're home when they're home, and you don't plan anything when they're home. And you try and travel with them as much as you can. And everything just revolved around them and their schedule. So I did that. Everything was around Jeff. When he was home, we were around. When he was on the road, we did other things, or we went with him. And I would put so many things on pause for myself. I wasn't getting in the gym regularly, just as an example, or I was saying no to certain social activities because I wanted to make sure I was home. I would do things, and now looking back, I'm like, oh, what was I doing? But this is the lesson, right? Where I would be very protective of our family time. So if Jeff was coming home from a road trip late one night and the next day we would have like 3 hours as a family, I wouldn't schedule anything that needed to be done on the house. I wouldn't allow anyone to come over or go do things. I wouldn't schedule phone calls that I needed to make. I would put hard boundaries around that. And granted, some of that still happens, but I approach it differently. This was getting to a point where I would jokingly, but it was true, tell people, oh, it's Jeff's world and we're just living in it. And I created this world. Jeff never said, would you please make sure that you're always available when I'm home? Would you please cancel plans if I'm home? Would you please, make sure you don't go to the gym when you need to go to the gym because I'm here. I don't know. It was really weird how I was making decisions. And I created this issue where I was prioritizing him and I was prioritizing the kids and all of their needs, right? And then I would get to a place where I was frustrated or overwhelmed, or I was not tending to either my to-do lists or my mental or physical health, so much so that I would get resentful. I would get to the end of a month or a week or the end of a season and just be like, oh my God, I've been neglected. And I would kind of take the victim stance and blame baseball or blame Jeff for not prioritizing me. And it took me a long time to realize that it's not baseball's fault. It's not Jeff's fault. I was creating my own problem by literally revolving my entire world, my decisions, my time, my yeses, my nos around Jeff and his schedule. Again, he didn't ask for that. And I really had to get real on that. It probably wasn't until I talked to my therapist saying, we're heading into football season. I think last year it was his first official college football season, TV broadcasting, and that's full season, right? That's every single weekend from the beginning of September, actually the end of August through Thanksgiving, right? So that's a commitment. And baseball, especially if you are following baseball, the Brewers are who Jeff works for, and they're doing really well. So baseball season might go a little longer, and there's overlap. So when that was starting to be a real thing, like, okay, I guess this is how it's going to be now. You're going to say yes, obviously, to baseball. That's his main gig. But now we're saying yes to a contract, a full season with football. And when that was coming to fruition, really the first time when he was just doing a few games, I started to have these conversations about prioritizing myself differently. And when it was official last year, okay, we are going into football season as well. I kind of slumped back into that victim mode of, well, there goes, any kind of normalcy and we'll never see him. And I'm just going to have to figure out how we're going to be available to him every chance we get. So my therapist calls me out and she basically says, why do you have to operate around him? Why can't you just live in flow and make plans and take care of yourself and prioritize your needs anyway? And I thought I had been doing that. I thought I was okay at scheduling my workouts and my self-care. As I like to get a pedicure, I like to get a massage, I like to go for walks, I like to see friends. I'm a very social person. I love meeting people for coffee. I always make time for my clients, but not even enough, right? I was very stingy with my time that I would offer to clients. I was only offering like Thursdays in the morning and Tuesdays in the morning and maybe on Fridays. And then I opened it up a little bit more once my daughter went into kindergarten last year. But I was always reserving. Does that make sense? I was always like reserving time and checking the schedule and making sure that, we were around for him. And my therapist pointed this out. She's like, why can't you just keep living life? The kids have activities, they have friends, you have activities, you have friends, you have a business that matters to you. You would like to focus more energy on the business and working out and eating healthy and having family and friends in town and going places and doing things. And if you keep avoiding doing the things that matter to you and keep avoiding prioritizing yourself, it makes so much sense why you're becoming this resentful, why can't Jeff put my needs first, kind of naggy wife. It was really messing with our marriage, this thing I created. It was bad. It was to a point where I would honestly pick fights and be like, I didn't even schedule that thing because you were supposed to be around. And he's like, well, I had work to do, or I had this thing. And he's living in flow, right? He's doing what he needs to do. And granted, we had to get really good at communicating with each other when there were plans on the calendar or things changing or whatever. But like, he's still moving through life as he needed to. And I was always so supportive, and I still am, but I was like, whatever Jeff needed, it was ridiculous. And I'm this like strong independent woman, and I was definitely not acting like one. And Jeff and I had to get real with each other when I told him, my therapist just totally called me out and said, I don't need you to prioritize me. I need to prioritize me. I need to do the things I want to do, need to do, regardless of you coming in and out from work. And I would really put things on pause to make sure we were available. And when things wouldn't work out or he was busy, I would get pissed. And it was stupid. It was just stupid. And I operated that way for a really long time, even though I battled through it and I tried other ways and I was trying to learn and grow and figure out how to be better at this. And I'm still learning or practicing. It was still a really big process. And I've mentioned this before, like I used to look forward to the fall because that meant that we would have Jeff home more and we would have this regular time together. I think I talked about this on the last episode. But anyways, the way that I've had to change things, this mindset shift that I feel like we all need, no matter what was going on, no matter where he's flying off to, whether he's home doing a baseball game or he's away doing a football game, I might not be able to listen to every game or watch every game. And I used to really be hard on myself on that too. But no matter what, I have switched in my brain this thought process of I have to always support him and be available to him, and then I'll figure out how to do the things I need to do. Now it's I need to figure out what I need to do, what's important to me, what's good for the kids, what makes sense for our lives to stay in flow and keep some consistency. Like we're on the ground here. Jeff's the one who kind of comes and goes because that's just the nature of it. But me and the kids, we're here living life, and we don't have to have that fluctuation and that up and down and in and out. We don't have to do that. And so I had to switch that and prioritize myself and my needs and prioritize the kids and their needs. And don't get me wrong, we're still very supportive of, Dad. We watch and listen to whatever games we can. We do try and make sure we're available to spend time together, and we make plans that way. We'll put it on the calendar to make sure that there's family time. And it's hard for him to come and go. That's the difficult part of the career path he's chosen. And just because we might prioritize differently doesn't mean we don't recognize what this is like for him. And truly, that was the other thing I did wrong. I was constantly thinking about how hard it was on me. I was less thinking about how hard it was on him, which truly was a mistake because we were communicating better once we both recognized our own individual experiences. When I started to really do this, where I was making plans and doing things, I would always communicate. I still do this. I will communicate with Jeff and say, here's what I got going on. Here's what I'm thinking about doing. Just want to let you know out of courtesy, rather than if I do this here, will you be home? And I want to make sure that I don't miss you and the kids have time with you and blah, blah, blah. And I don't have anxiety over it anymore. Perfect example. I have a friend who had a birthday on a Monday. Jeff randomly will have a day off on a Monday. And old me would have made sure I planned absolutely nothing to make sure that my calendar was clear. So if he's home, we get time together. And I'm doing this more, but truly for the first time, I really didn't even look at the baseball schedule. I mean, truly every time I schedule a hair appointment, a massage, whatever, I always look at the baseball calendar or schedule. And I didn't even look. I just thought, okay, I'm looking on my own calendar, September 9th. This is when it was. This is my friend's birthday. If she's available, we're going to go do a spa day and we're going to have lunch and we're going to enjoy ourselves. And then I checked in with Jeff and I said, just want to let you know what's happening on Monday. He's like, oh, I'm off that day. And old me would have been like, gulp, I got to go cancel my plans. I have to revolve my world around you. But I thought, with this new mindset, I thought, okay, well, I'm sorry, we're not going to spend much time together. I made these plans with Beth, and he is immediately like, that's totally fine. I want you to do these things. I'm being supportive. Like, have fun. And lo and behold, he ended up leaving early for the road trip anyway. So I would have had maybe an hour with him, which I'll take anything I can get, which is kind of our mantra now. I'll take what I can get. But I didn't need to change my whole world or stop everything I wanted to do in order to spend time with him. And then we kind of look ahead and we see where the other windows lie. That makes sense. So I can continue to make plans and go to the gym when I need to and walk the dog when I want to. And if he's part of it, great. If he's not, like, I'm not going out of my way, because it was driving me bananas to try and circle around him and do this. It's Jeff's world and I'm living in it. And it was when I step back and look at that, from a grown point of view, I think, God, like, that was so silly. But it's a pretty natural thing to kind of push all of your things aside and pedestal your hubby when they're in the sports industry. I know this happens way more with players and coaches, families. Their focus, especially if you're playing baseball or football or whatever the sport is, their focus is intense, right? And they need to be supported and they need to, feel mentally stable and all that. And families really play a big role in that, and wives play a big role in that. And I've seen this happen, especially with like the younger chicks. I can say that now as a veteran baseball and sports wife. I see it a lot, especially before they have kids, where they, jump on every plane and go where their husband is and make sure he gets enough sleep and make sure they cook him the right meal and make sure the house is clean so he doesn't have stress. And that's not unusual, but it definitely takes a toll and it starts to wear you out. And, if people ever ask, like, what's your biggest advice for being in the sports world? I say, what? Don't skip what's yours and keep something that's yours. Keep doing something that matters to you. Keep prioritizing yourself. Don't do so much for him in his world that you forget to take care of yourself first as well, right? I love to say first, but sometimes easier said than done. But eat breakfast in the morning. If you're cooking breakfast for everybody, make sure you eat it too. It's just an easy example, but it's tough. And it's easy to go down that route. And I saw myself doing it, and I really had to be called out. I like accountability. Obviously, I'm a life coach. In coaching, that's part of my gig is to hold people accountable. So, this is a big thing that my therapist and I check in on. And she says, how is prioritizing yourself? How are you feeling, as far as like resentment and being a victim of your life? And I can say I've come a long way, obviously, being able to speak to this now, but I don't feel like that victim or resentment, those feelings at all anymore. And it's been so much better for our marriage. And I was getting like naggy and clingy and annoying, and it was not me. It wasn't great. It wasn't the me I wanted to be. And it's better for me and it's better for our marriage. It's better for our life when I just keep things going and do what I need to do. And I have a board, looking at it. I should put these on video one day, but I have a board where I write down my top 3 priorities every single day. And I try and make them one about the family and include everybody, like things that I need to do, whether it's around the house or pack for a trip or whatever it needs to be. And then I try and do a mental health and a physical health. So I'll write, work out or go visit with friends, read a book, sit outside. I will try and not make it overwhelming either, because I noticed and recognized in myself when I have a huge list, so many things just don't get done. So if I break it down and do 3 big priorities a day, then more gets done. And then I can come back to the larger list and continue to break it down. But I always include me. Always include me. And I add kind of my own side to-do list for the business, but prioritizing yourself is so key, especially when you're going through a transition or a challenging time. And this is what I get up on my soapbox about, is the best and most crucial time to take care of your needs is when you're going through something different or difficult. And right now I'm going through something different and difficult. Granted, I've done this before. I've been here where we go through baseball/football season and then we go to football/basketball season. But there's always something new because the kids are growing and developing, and I'm growing and developing. And I am trying to do this better every year. But it still comes back to now I know. Now I know how to identify my priorities. Now I know how to tend to my needs and my priorities differently and better. I don't put them on the side or as an afterthought. I put them first as an important thing, and it just works better. Jeff and I get along better when I'm just happy. I'm happier. If I'm being honest, I'm happier taking care of the things I need to take care of and not revolving around him and creating my own monster out of myself. It just wasn't working. And I think I can speak for Jeff now that I just kind of move through life a little differently. And even when things are hard, I still work and operate in this way of prioritizing things regardless of where he is and what he's up to. And it's so helpful. So you may not have exactly the same situation, but everyone's prioritized someone ahead of them before. If you're a people pleaser, especially, you know exactly what this is like, where you're the last thought. And we need people pleasers and we need kindness, but you also get to tend to yourself and your own priorities and make yourself that number one priority, especially when you really, really need to. And being a human being who goes through things and experiences emotions, we have to maintain stability and mental and physical health, and it's super, super important. This is what I'll leave you with. Prioritize yourself and your needs no matter what. It doesn't make you selfish. And if you've done the thing that I've done where you become resentful and become the victim of your own life based on your own decisions, take a little zoom out position and think, am I operating in a way that prioritizes me and the people I care about and love, but in a way that helps my mental health and well-being and my physical health and well-being and helps me feel calm and more in flow rather than in survival? And also allows for you to pursue your own dreams and needs and wants out of life. That matters too. For an action, right, a takeaway, try the 3 top priorities for each day and don't make them just to-dos like clean the house or send that email. Make sure you add at least one that's for you, that helps your mental or physical health and makes you feel balanced and healthy in whatever way you need to feel. And remember, your priorities don't have to look like somebody else's, and that's okay. So I'll leave you here. As I always say, and I truly believe, your needs matter because you matter. Talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Needy and Normal podcast. If you liked this episode, share it generously. I would so appreciate it if you would take a quick moment to leave me a review and click that subscribe button so you won't miss an episode. For information about coaching together, visit ablifecoaching.com.